Have you ever been in survival mode for so long that all you see is what you're running out of? Whether that's your hope, your patience, your money, sometimes your plan. And we're asking God for more. We may even say, God, give me something new. But instead of asking those questions of God, sometimes we might have to ask God to help me to see. And this is what I saw in Hagar's story. She was a mom who was in the wilderness with her child. The water was gone. She was depleted. She was alone. She was isolated. She had nowhere to go and nowhere to turn to. She had this child out here in this place where it's dry. Her hope was fading, but God opened her eyes. And that is when she saw the well. The well was already there. She just couldn't see it. She was blinded by all of the things that she was going through in that moment. That what was close to her, she did not even see. What the provisions was right there in front of her eyes, she could not see. And that resonated with me. Because have there been a time where you feel like you're going through and right up under your nose, that is the next step that God has placed before you for you to step right in. So when I read the Hagar story, this is not just another woman in the Bible. This is a mom who is trying to survive. She is carrying the weight of her child, and she is just trying to figure out what will be the next step for them. And as a mom, I felt that because sometimes your concerns is not only about you, it's about them babies. You start to think like, Lord, did I make the right decision? Is this really going to work out? The questions that sometimes we have is like, do I even have enough to provide to keep this roof over our head? How am I going to keep going when I feel empty? These are all of the questions I know I have asked myself plenty of times. So in that moment, Hagar, imagine what she's going through. What she do? She placed her son under a bush because she could not bear to see him suffer. She walks away, earshot away, because she could not bear the thought of seeing her son die. As a mom, that pain is different. She's exhausted. So this is just not only a Bible story. This is real life. There are moments as a mom where you feel like I cannot see my kids suffer. What I need to do? Where I need to go? And that sometimes can open us to compromising ourselves as a woman, as a child of God. You know, we should never feel that desperate sometimes to feel like, okay, I'm gonna go this way. But sometimes we don't wait. We don't wait to hear God. Sometimes we just so consumed by what's in front of us that we cannot see what God has placed in our hands. So the one thing that stood out for me is that God heard. God heard. So even in the wilderness, as she is crying and as her son is crying, the angel of God came down and said, I heard your baby crying. That hit me because sometimes we feel like, God, where are you? Are you there? And sometimes we don't even realize that our kids are crying out for God. Hagar in that moment felt alone. She felt abandoned, unsure as to where to go. She felt like her story is coming to an end. But this is a good news for somebody. And I want you to hear this really good, that God heard her cry. So even when we are in our lowest moments, God can hear us. He hears the worries. He hears the questions. He hears us as we are secretly talking to ourselves, not knowing that God hears. But He hears it all. And sometimes God is not going to immediately remove us in that wilderness experience. Sometimes we have to go through that moment to either be stretched, to learn, to grow. I know when I'm in those seasons, I'm like, I used to be like, God, pull me out of this. Why am I here? But now when I go through, I have other kind of questions. I'm like, God, what do I need to learn in this moment? Lord, what are you trying to teach me? Lord, help me to see. Because a lot of times those moments are teaching moments. Those are moments for us to learn, to grow. So only in those wilderness experiences is when God can really do what God can do in our lives. So that's why this story resonates with me so much, because she been here before where God spoke life into her. He gave her the plans as to where she would end up with her child. So even while she going through, God set a promise for her early on in chapter 16 where he told her, you ain't got to worry. You and your son is going to be all right? But when you're going through, you forget all the promises that God gave. You forget all the good things that God is going to do in your life. So the Bible say that God opened Hagar's eyes, and that is when she saw the well. That means that the well was already there. That means that God already provided before she even seen it. His provisions was there already. She just couldn't see it in that moment. And I had to really sit with that, because how many times have you been in survival mode and God just show up right on time? When you stressed out, you think about that problem instead of thinking of the solution. When you are exhausted, you will miss what God is trying to show you. So a lot of times, sometimes we have to halt. We have to pause. We have to see. Because how many times have you been through a moment where you feel like, I'm depleted? I ain't got nothing up in my Frigidaire. My cabinets are bare. And then what happens? You get a quick little cash app, provisions. Or you find that $20 under the bed, the mattress in your car. You like, oh, thank you, Lord. But sometimes those moments is right there, and we have to give thanks. The provisions is there for us. So here's the other part of this story. God had a promise for her. He already told her where her life would be and how things would end up. So no matter what you're going through, God knows the beginning from the end, you know? We just got to keep walking down that journey. We got to still walk in that path, because if we don't, if we stay stagnant, that's only the land, the process, the blessings, the provision for us. So keep on walking. So when I look back on my own life, I think about my big move. You know, that is the time where I felt like I was stretched to the ultimate stress. I felt like that was my wilderness experience in my 40s. You know, I was in a new place, a new environment, and there was moments where I was going through like, Lord, what did I really do? You know, how can I be in my 40s picking up my whole entire life to a whole nother state with children? I just can't figure this out. But God set provisions for me. And every time I took a step, God was there to walk me through it. Doors started to open up. Things started to happen for me and my children. And all I could say was, thank you, Lord, for providing the provisions, the opportunity. You know, I was not just looking at the problem like, oh no, I'm stuck. I'm starting from scratch. Nope. I'm like, this is new beginnings. Let the opportunities flow. Sometimes we got to change our mindset. You know what I mean? To think positive. You know, there was a point where my thinker was low, was gutter, was worldly, you know? And I could not really see the great things that God was doing, even in my wilderness experience. So now, like I said, when I be going through, and no matter how hard it hurts, I'm like, God, you are stretching me for my next level. And that's what it is a lot of times. You being stretched. So I want to ask you, what is God actually trying to show you in your season right now? Sometimes you got to take a step back and just say, okay, what is God trying to show me? What am I not seeing? Where do I need to go? Who I need to leave behind? What I need to read? What I need to say? What I need to do? God, what do you want from me now? So as I study this, and as I think about Hagar and look at the bigger picture, we are all Hagars at some point or another in our lives where we are wandering, where we are worrying, we are weary, we are thirsty and we are tired, ready to give up, ready to go place our kids under that bush like, Lord, I give up. Just feeling like there's nowhere to go, nowhere to turn. But I have some good news. My God. My God is kind. My God hears your prayers. God is there to walk you through. He has placed a provision for you to seek after, just to open your eyes and see. So, no matter what season you're in, whether you're in the wilderness, the valley, or the time of flowing with milk and honey, always ask God to open your eyes and see what He needs for you to see. Because only then that we can be aligned to what God has for us, the placement that He wants us to go, the direction He needs to lead us. Maybe you don't feel like things is going your way. Maybe you're trying to provide, to heal, to rebuild, to keep going all at the same time. Sometimes I just want you to take a moment. Can I encourage you? I need you to pause, to halt, to take a breath and ask those questions of God. God, help me to open my eyes to see what is there. Before you call it your wilderness experience, is the wilderness really dry? Or is there something that I'm not seeing that will help me to replenish, to keep going to that next journey? So if this message encouraged you, I want you to comment down below. What is one area that you are asking God to open your eyes? And if you're trying to discover the God given skills that's placed inside of you, I have a free resource down in the description below. It is my faithful foundation finder. This will help you to see, open your eyes to the gifts that you already have inside of you. And you can use that God given skill to build, to grow with. So hit the link in the description is there for you, this resource. I also have other things that can help you to see where God is trying to lead you in this season so that this season will not be your wilderness experience. And before you say that this wilderness is empty and dry, ask God to open your eyes. May God continue to bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.